Consider this. World War II was the deadliest conflict in human history, with an estimated total of 70 to 85 million casualties. That's about 3% of the world population at the time. It was a conflict that changed the very fabric of societies across the globe, an event so colossal that its echoes are still felt today. Imagine the world map, dotted with over 30 countries, each with its own story, its own battles, and its own losses. From the icy tundra of Russia to the sun-soaked islands of the Pacific, from the bustling streets of London to the quiet farms of rural America, no corner of the world was untouched by this war's grasp. The scale of destruction and loss was unprecedented. Cities were reduced to rubble, economies were shattered, and countless lives were irrevocably changed. Yet amidst the devastation, it sparked changes that would shape the world for decades to come. Now, let's dive into the chronology of this monumental event. The world was thrown into chaos on September 1, 1939, when Nazi Germany, led by Adolf Hitler, invaded Poland. This audacious move was the result of Hitler's ambitious expansionist ideology, which sought to establish German dominance across Europe. The invasion was swift and brutal, making use of a military strategy known as blitzkrieg, or lightning war. This strategy involved rapid, concentrated attacks intended to quickly destabilize the enemy and prevent a coherent defense. The international community watched in shock as Poland fell to the Nazi onslaught. Britain and France, Poland's allies, had hoped to avoid another global conflict. However, they could not stand by as Hitler's aggression went unchecked. On September 3rd, just 2 days after the invasion began, both nations declared war on Germany. This marked the beginning of the World War II, a conflict that would engulf the entire globe and change the course of history forever. With the invasion of Poland, the fuse of the Second World War was lit. The war rapidly expanded as the Axis powers, including Germany, Italy, and Japan, sought to extend their territories. Between 1939 and 1941, a dark cloud of conquest and expansion swept across the globe. The Axis powers, driven by a potent cocktail of ambition, ideology, and military might, embarked on a series of aggressive campaigns that would forever alter the course of history. In the spring of 1940, Germany launched a blitzkrieg on Western Europe, swiftly capturing Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. These were mere stepping stones to the real prize, France. By June, the German forces had stormed the French defenses, leading to a shocking capitulation that left Paris in Nazi hands. Meanwhile, across the English Channel, Britain braced itself for a similar onslaught. The Battle of Britain ensued, a relentless air raid campaign by the German Luftwaffe. But Britain, under the steadfast leadership of Winston Churchill, held firm, refusing to be bullied into submission. Their skies echoed with the roar of Spitfires and Hurricanes, symbols of defiance in the face of adversity. While Europe was embroiled in conflict, the Pacific theater was about to ignite. In December 1941, Japan, another member of the Axis powers, launched a surprise attack on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor. This devastating assault drew the United States, a sleeping giant, into the global conflict, marking the beginning of the Pacific War. These years were a period of rapid territorial expansion for the Axis powers. They appeared invincible, their military machines cutting through opposition like a scythe through wheat. With each victory, they tightened their grip on the world, leaving a trail of destruction and despair in their wake. Yet, amidst the chaos and carnage, the seeds of resistance were being sown. The world watched, apprehensive yet resolute, as the stage was set for the next chapter of this global conflict. As the Axis powers seemed unstoppable, the world held its breath. But 1942 marked a shift in the tides of war. No longer was this a conflict dominated by the Axis powers. The Allies, with their backs against the wall, started to push back, and the arenas for these pivotal battles ranged from the harsh Russian winter to the scorching deserts of North Africa and the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. In one of the most grueling battles of the war, the Battle of Stalingrad, the Soviet Union made a heroic stand. The city, named after Soviet leader Joseph Stalin himself, became a symbol of Russian resistance. Over 5 long months, the Red Army, despite being outnumbered and outgunned, managed to encircle and defeat the German Sixth Army. The loss of an entire army was a heavy blow to Nazi Germany, and it marked the first major defeat of Hitler's forces. Meanwhile, halfway around the world, the Battle of Midway was being fought. In the Pacific Ocean, the United States faced off against the Japanese Empire. The battle was a clash of carriers, a new type of warfare that relied heavily on air power. The United States, with superior intelligence and strategy, managed to sink 4 Japanese carriers, dealing a crippling blow to the Japanese Navy. The Battle of Midway is often considered the turning point of the war in the Pacific. Back in Africa, the North African campaign was underway. Here, the British and their allies faced off against the forces of Germany and Italy. The campaign was a seesaw affair, with both sides gaining and losing ground. But ultimately, the Allied forces, led by the charismatic British General Bernard Montgomery, managed to defeat the famed German General Erwin Rommel, also known as the Desert Fox. The victory in North Africa paved the way for the subsequent invasion of Italy. The Axis powers' momentum was slowing, and the Allies were beginning to turn the tide. The stage was set for the final acts of this global drama, but the cost of victory would be high, and the world would never be the same. By 1945, the Allies were closing in. The tides of World War II were turning, and the final stages of this colossal conflict were about to unfold. This was a time of high tension and desperate measures, a time when the course of history hung in the balance. June 6, 1944, a date etched into the annals of history as D-Day. The largest seaborne invasion in history unfolded on the beaches of Normandy, France. This was a pivotal moment, a daring gamble by the Allies to break the Axis stronghold on Western Europe. The invasion was successful, sparking a chain of events that would lead to the end of the war in Europe. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, a different kind of war was raging. The United States, after years of bloody island hopping, was closing in on Japan. The stakes were unimaginably high, and the decision was made to use a weapon of unprecedented power. In August 1945, 2 atomic bombs were dropped on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The devastation was immense and the impact immediate. Japan surrendered, marking the end of World War II, but the end of the war did not mean the end of its effects. The world had changed in profound and irreversible ways. The power dynamics of the globe had shifted, and the stage was set for the Cold War. The United Nations was born out of a desire to prevent such a devastating conflict from happening again. Countries rebuilt, people healed, and the world moved forward, but the scars of the war remained. The Second World War ended in 1945, but its impact resonates to this day. It was a conflict that changed the world, a war that showed us the best and worst of humanity. It is a part of our history that we must never forget, a reminder of the cost of conflict and the price of peace. World War II was more than just a war. It was a global event that reshaped the world. In the aftermath, the geopolitical landscape was dramatically transformed, setting the stage for the world we know today. In the wake of such vast destruction, the need for a global organization dedicated to maintaining peace was more apparent than ever. Thus, the United Nations was born in 1945, designed as a forum for nations to resolve their differences peacefully. Today, the United Nations stands as a testament to the global community's commitment to prevent another conflict on the scale of World War II. But even as the world sought unity, new divisions were emerging. The ideological rift between the United States and the Soviet Union, both victors of the war, led to the Cold War, a tense, decades-long standoff that shaped much of the latter half of the 20th century. This rivalry, waged with propaganda, economic measures, and a high-stakes arms race, was another profound legacy of World War II. The war also had lasting effects on society. It reshaped economies, as nations shifted from war production to peacetime industries. It changed the face of technology, as innovations made during the war found new applications. It transformed societies, as women and minorities who had taken on new roles during the war sought equality in its aftermath. Moreover, the horrors of the Holocaust led to a global commitment to prevent such atrocities. The phrase "never again" became a rallying cry, leading to the establishment of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the formation of Israel as a homeland for Jewish survivors. World War II indeed was not just a war. It was an event that changed the course of history, an event that still echoes today through our global institutions, our politics, our societies, and our collective memory. World War II, a war like no other, has left an indelible mark on our world.